we should try again testing our hypothesis using identical delivery of different compounds. And in this case, as I told, that the compound should be really protective. So due to lack of time, I will show you some of the results here. And here, both cold and hot environment can modulate the pathological functions, because this is our ongoing very large projects on external and internal factors changing the pathophysiological outcome of CNS injury. As you know that brain injury or any kind, stroke, Alzheimer, lots of endogenous factors are released. Some of them are neuroprotective, some are neurodestructive. And so we have to see that based on our observations in last 30 years, we identified that these areas are endogenous neurodestructive elements. And there are some factors that are endogenous neuroprotective elements. So what is happening in human cases that you have a balance. And the drug treatments can alter also the balance. Maybe some drugs can attenuate the neurodestructive elements, enhance the neuroprotective elements. So this is very complex. And no model is justifying doing experiments of any disease, but you have to understand something. So we are doing some experimental models. So as my hypothesis is that if capillary is leaking, I mean blood-brain barrier can be considered as a gateway of neurological diseases in all circumstances. So not only neuron is affected, but also the glial cells. As you can see that the number is very high. Okay. And again, we are testing this hypothesis using diverse models under all circumstances. We have a rat model here, and we use the lanthanum as Dr. Milton Brightman has used, and we can see that this lanthanum is residing in normal cases in endothelial cells, and this neuron is quite normal, and it's a very good electron micrograph for electron microscopy. So temperature affects the brain function. That's very important. And we have shown, like, I think we are the first to show with Dr. Saeed Ali that methamphetamine opens the barrier in 2006, although there were hyperthermia reports for 20 years. So we were the first to show. And then we tested this hypothesis together with Dr. Kiatkin in NIDA, and they have different model for the government, 9 milligram per kilogram SC, and I think with Saeed Ali we use 40 milligram or something like that, intraperitoneal. Anyway, so both the cases increased hyperthermia and opens the barrier. We also did, this was the award work in 1991 by Italian government, that if you rear the animals in different environmental temperature, you are going to alter the traumatic injury course or even hyperthermic insult. So this was an award of the Italian government. And then we have done papers on different kinds of temperature-related effects of molecular mechanics. Now coming to cold. This is now quite evident. Nowadays, we need to study cold. There are lots of experiments going on in Canada, in US also, and this is a thesis in the United States, and this is in California, and this is showing that how exposure to cold can alter different kinds of functions. This is a very good thesis. And hot, you know that this is the situation of hot environment, sand exposure, but these are the situations in cold environment. And there are lots of experiments going on for the soldiers, but so far, not so much on brain function. There are studies that in cold environment, how you can have these rifles, or these things are cold and you put on hands on it, how your physiological changes are occurring. So in the Thermal Physiological Society, these are very important aspects. So regarding in military and traumatic brain injury, I just assembled some of the things. And even as early as 2013, there are many reports that still we do not know the pathophysiological outcome of traumatic brain injury in any form. And sleep deprivation, I just mentioned a few times ago, that this is also one of the important aspects in military life, and these neurological functions are altered depending on the duration of sleep deprivation. Here is just an example. This is from US Military Files, that United States Navy recruits in 2000-2001 that allocated 6 hours sleep per night. and 2003 were 8 hours. And you can see that the rates, how they differ in 6 hours sleep deprivation. The same thing is also obtained from 72 hours of sleep deprivation. You see, this is gradual decline in normal function, mathematical or calculations. This is also occurring of different hours, 1 hour, 6 hours, 5 hours. You can see that there is deterioration in mental function. And now people are talking that the military leaders, they also have sleep deprivation, and their decision-making capacity might be influenced. So these are very hot material in at least in US military. We have shown previously that sleep deprivation here is 24, 72, and 12 and 48 hours. Gradually, they have neuronal damages. And if they are exposed to another nanoparticles in same size, I think the pathological changes are much more higher. And we have also used at that time ondansetron, because sleep has relation with serotonin, well known, and we have used this. So we try to do this different kinds of brain injuries, and due to lack of time, I will present only some of the data. This is our model of concussive head injury. There is also an open injury that is called a stab injury, where the skull is open, both sides. Sorry. And then a longitudinal incision was made only at the level of cortex. Even cortex callosum was not damaged. And we try to understand the leakage in both sides. These are the models, and I just show you so I can see. So this is one of the model of open brain injury. The lesion, you can see the leakage of the Evans fluid here. And when we apply drug, you can see that we can still induce neuroprotection in the same model. So the model is working for drug treatment. So the question is whether temperatures are influencing the pathological outcome. So this is the controlled model of the cages, where you can maintain many things. And the animals were exposed to 5 degrees Celsius, 34 degrees Celsius, and controls were 23 degrees Celsius. The measurements are very similar. And here is normal. I showed you the gradual 4 hours to 24 hours, there is gradual increase in verbal value permeability and edema formation. Nothing new. But here you can see in this table the effect of real temperature for 5 weeks. This is 5 degrees Celsius, 23, and 34. Evans fluid leakage was higher than the control group in both these situations, cold and heat. In some cases, the cold has much more aggravation. Also, the iodine leakage, you can see, and even right and left half were given. So the point is that both cold and hot exposure of identical injury has exacerbated the pathological outcomes. The same thing is here, ambient temperature, and here is, you see, water content edema formation and volume swelling. Both cold and hot have increased. Then here is, you see the neuronal changes. I'm just summarizing parietal cerebral cortex, hippocampus, and cerebellum. Also the same things are happening. Right and left difference is still significant. Left is much more higher. In all the cases, either cold, hot, or normal temperature. So the pattern is not changing. Here is an example. Cortical changes, 34 degrees Celsius, 5 degrees Celsius, and 23. You can see that much more perineural edema, vacuolation, and sponginess is seen in both cold and high ambient temperature. We tested at electron microscopy, and the picture is very similar to that. Even cold exposure, hot exposure, you can see that this is the vacuolation, or probably this intoxication of water inside the cell. Might be, this could be cytotoxic edema is much more prominent here at 34 and cold as compared to 23. And if they left untreated, then this is the situation after 24 hours, 12 hours in both halves. Here we have given for test sterilizing that whether the model is working or not, and we can have similar protection. And then the one possible mechanism is oxidative stress. People are talking about that. And normally, what is happening that this malondialdehyde in control cases, it is increased when we have injury. Glutathione is decreased, and leucinogen is increased. All are increased except glutathione is increased. And what you can see that 5 degrees, 34 degrees Celsius, both the cases, they are much more adverse as compared to 2 degrees Celsius. The decrease was much more significant, and all increases were significant. Just for testing, none of our cerebralizing was able to report. I'm showing here 34 degrees Celsius results. Then we have used H296 is an antioxidant, and it is working at the chain-breaking antioxidant by AstraZeneca, and a well-controlled drug, and the picture is very similar. So both cerulizin and H29051 were able to significantly reduce this oxidative stress at low and high temperatures. These are the electron microscopy changes showing better results for the treatment, 24-hour left, 24-hour right, and it is treated. And these are the example of nanovar cerulizin therapy for completion, 23 degree, 34, and 5 degrees Celsius. These are the treated group, these are untreated group. And so I can say that both cold and hot exposure alters the pathophysiology of traumatic brain injury. And the drugs either should be given in higher doses, because if we give H29051 100 milligram per kilogram, it works. But if we use nano delivery, half of the dose is sufficient up to 24 hours. The same thing also happening with cerulizin, 5 ml of 10 ml here. And H29051 is also working 50 versus 100. So nano delivery has reduced the dose and effectivity. What other factors could influence the pathophysiological outcome? And one of the important aspects is anesthetics. Some anesthetics are neuroprotective, some anesthetics are neurodestructive. So we summarize some of the results and use this model. And it is quite well known, and the speaker has very nice data of anesthetic effects, and also there are many anesthetic effects on the brain itself. So I just summarize these things. What we did, we used epicacin, ketamine, urethane, and volatile anesthesia, just for example. You can see here that this ether and pentobarbital, they are showing worse results after the same kind of traumatic brain injury as compared to application ketamine and urethane. Of course, urethane is the best, but we cannot use it because animals cannot revive after urethane, and it is toxic. And use of urethane anesthesia in neurophysiology is still going on, but in many cases, use of urethane is banned. But this is just technological experiments. The same thing happening with this ether. Ether is also not used nowadays, but we have used because ether is still a form of anesthesia used in many countries. And pentobarbital, there are the worst cases, and these things like that. Here, cerebral blood flow, most weakly was seen with ether and pentobarbital compared to the other things. Now the morphological picture, a little bit left versus right. And you see that pentobarbital, how much more neural damages can be seen after. And here is the urethane. Urethane is quite good. And this is ether, how neurons were damaged and perineuronal edema can be seen. And they were very well correlated with the plasma level of serotonin. I mean, so the anesthetic stress and the stress releases serotonin could be one factor. I'm not telling that this is the final answer, but these are the correlations so far we have found. Now briefly I go that high altitude brain injury. This is one of the most discussed part in US military and also with Chinese military nowadays, because people are facing this kind of problems. Briefly I will show. And you can see that our soldiers are posted even in Afghanistan in those mountains more than 5,000 meter high. So if the trauma is occurring at that places, I believe that the situation is not very simple. And this was also one of the accepted technological concept in 2015, and this was done by Dr. Morazano, because we are working together with Jose Vicente and also in some Canadian colleague in Vancouver. They have the high mountain. And you see, these are the critical heights where even normal people can have problems like edema. But when they have head injuries, the situation is much more worse. And this is the written by a colonel in the military. And well, the concept is not changed anyway. The problem is that high altitude edema is well recognized, and so far we have not good treatment anyway. And this is the probable mechanisms. So this is acute mountain sickness and high altitude cerebral edema. That is the killing. So we have simulated in laboratory conditions this high altitude and of 5,000 meters. I am not able to disclose all the results, but I can only say that rearing temperature also affects, and as I said here, that when the injury is done, comparable to 5,000 meter, this is also exacerbation. And cerebralizing, we have tested just an hypothesis, was able to reduce it, but it needs repeated administration for the same conditions. So I believe that non-regular cerebralizing or even H29051 is able to reduce some of the aspect at certain time window. We have not studied for a longer period or not the rotation. So I believe that both cold and hot environment influence the outcome of the pathophysiology. Even the high altitude is also adversely affecting. So trying to develop the therapeutic regimen, we must consider these external and internal factors for prescription of the medicine to injured person. And these situations must be acknowledged for better therapeutic targets. Thank you very much for
Any questions from the audience? And one thing I wanted to mention, Hari, is that I know very little data that would suggest that anesthetics are an issue for an adult animal.
Yeah.
The data that we have generated over the years is very much centered on a developing animal, either late in utero or early after birth. And matter of fact, there's just some recent data coming from our lab indicating that the adult animal does not seem to show the symptoms that you might see in developing animals exposed to anesthesia. It's also not only stage dependent, developmental stage dependent, but it's also dose response dependent, and that needs to be taken into consideration. But are there comments from the audience about anything? Yes.
Yeah, very nice presentation. I would say this also struck about the pedagogy. You know how much has been used. All the surgery we do, all the animal experiments we do, and if you're talking about already there is the damage or leakage of the blood-brain barrier using pentobarbital. So really we are preparing the animal just for that, and then you're doing the manipulation after that.
Yeah, coming to the developing brain, I did not say that these anesthetics so far have done damage in normal animals. I only said that injury is done, then we see different effects. So the effect of injury might be different in adult animals with regard to anesthesia. And I think Lars Wiklund is in the audience and he may comment something on this in human cases.
Well, as far as I know, we don't know very much about anesthesia effects in grown-ups.
Yeah.
You very nicely showed the bilateral effects of these unilateral injuries and brain trauma. I think decades ago people were using, say, stroke models in rodents, the contralateral hemisphere as a control. And we had a model of brain retraction injury in swine, a larger model. We were recording blood flow and both potentials bilaterally during unilateral ischemia, and you saw huge changes in the contralateral hemisphere that you're able to section the corpus callosum fairly non-invasively with a little string through the dura. You lose the blood flow and both potential effects. It might be interesting to look at in a sectioned corpus callosum animal model what happens in the opposite hemisphere.
Yeah, that's a good point. And that was the reason when Rappaport was studying blood-brain barrier, he used to inject hypertonic solution in one carotid artery, and then he said that we cannot use the other contralateral side as control because the changes are also occurring there. So these are quite interesting phenomena.
You had